This is sample problem 6D from page 218. It states a 76 kilogram boater initially at rest in a stationary 45 kilogram boat steps out of the boat and onto the dock. If the boater moves out of the boat with a velocity of 2.5 meters per second to the right, what is the final velocity of the boat? So we see here our information that it gives us. And what we want is that final velocity of the boat. We're going to say 2 is the boat, 1 is the person. So what I'm going to do, here is our equation. Okay, this was the equation from page 216, the conservation of momentum equation. We're going to start plugging things in. So I have mass 1 times velocity 1. Well, velocity 1 is 0. Velocity 2 is 0. So I can say this total side of this equation is going to be 0. Because this is the mass 1, velocity 1 is 0, mass 2, velocity 2 is 0. All right, then I'm going to do the right half of this equation. So mass 1, 76 kilograms, times velocity 1 final, which is 2.5 meters per second, plus mass 2, that's the boat, 45 kilograms, velocity 2 final. That's what we're trying to find. So now I have my equation set up. And let's move this a little bit so we can work with it. So I now have 0 equals, this is 190 kilogram meters per second. That's our momentum. Plus 45 kilogram velocity 2 final. All right, so now we need to just solve for this variable, this velocity of the boat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract this value to the other side of my equation. I'm going to subtract it over here. So I end up with a negative 45 kilogram V2 final equals 190 kilogram times meters per second. All right, now to isolate this second velocity, or the final velocity of the boat, I'm going to divide by this negative 45 kilograms. All right, so I'll have V2, my final velocity, is 190 kilogram meter per second over negative 45 kilograms. Now my kilograms will cancel out, which is good because in a velocity I want to be in meters per second. Alright, so my final velocity of the boat now is going to be negative 4.2 meters per second. And that would be to the right. Or I can say 4.2 meters per second to the left, which makes sense because the boater stepped out. If we remember, the boater stepped out of the boat to the right direction. So if the boater steps to the right, the boat's going to move in the opposite direction backwards. So that's why we ended up with a negative value for the velocity of the boat, because it's a negative right value, which means it went left 4.2 meters per second.